I just needed to make like $4,500, just call it $5,000 a month, so I can leave the Army. That was the goal. And I kept searching for podcast after podcast, listening to the 4-Hour Work Week every time I was driving to and from base. And I heard a guy talking on a podcast just like this. He was like doubling his money overnight, buying and selling land. I'm like, this, no one's talking about this. If half of what he says is true, this is what I'm going to do to get out of the military.
I've got dreams, I've got dreams, I've got dreams to find a way out. I've got dreams, I've got dreams, I've got dreams.
All right, Brent, I'm so happy to have you on my show. I can't wait to hear and share with the listeners here your story of how you went from being an Army officer to falling in love with real estate and having enough passive income coming in that you were able to say, you know what, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to leave the Army to spend more time with my family. And so I want to hear your story of how you got into real estate in the first place. Was it a book? Was it a podcast? Like, what lit the flame?
I've been reading Donald Trump, The Art of the Deal books since I was in middle school. So I don't know where the flame came from. I grew up in a 900 square foot house, me, my sister, my mom, dad, 3-bedroom, 1-bath. And I knew I wanted to do great things one day. My parents were both hardworking, but I hardly ever saw them. They were always working.
Yeah.
So my kids get to see me every morning and every night. And, they just had literally, 3 weeks off from school, and we were together the entire time. Now, sometimes I got on my nerves, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you can be home too much, but that was really it. I was never home in the military. So I was going down my parents' path, maybe making a little better money. But military, we don't make a fortune. So it's a comfortable life, but you are told where to be, what to wear. And sometimes you don't see your family for a year and a half. People are like, oh, just a 1-year deployment. No, what about the 6 months you're in the field preparing for that deployment?
Yeah.
And now they don't do 1-year deployments anymore, thank God. But you're always gone. If
You're
you're
always
in a rapid deployment unit, you're always training. And the military wants you to be the best. I mean, that's why we afford the freedoms we have in this country. Thank God I was born in the United States. But I wanted something different, and I was I was preparing for my 3rd combat deployment in the Army. I was a 2nd lieutenant at this time. The Army had just sent me from enlisted to be an officer.
Green to gold.
All that. Yeah, green to gold, active duty green to gold. So I completed all that training, but there was something more. I wanted something more. I wanted more time at home. And I had gotten my license in 2007. I got my real estate license, bought that first rental property. And that's kind of where it started. I kind of quit. I quit back there. I didn't kind of quit. I did quit in 2009 because I was like, shoot, man, I got to go back to school. I'm watching brokers and everyone get out of this business. And I got it between my 2 ears that if they can't succeed, what makes me think I'm going to? Terry took a little break until about 2013 when I went to college to be an officer. And I bought the house right next to the school, and I rented out all the rooms, and I was making like $500 a month just to live there. I was like, this is crazy. So I refinanced that property, took out $55,000 cash, and bought another property. And I just kept doing it. And I bought a triplex as soon as I got to Colorado Springs, and I bought my house right next to the Cheyenne Mountain Resort. You're familiar with that area?
I am.
And then I started Airbnb in that house because the Army sent me on a 5-month TDY trip to Fort Knox, Kentucky. And I'm just like making money hand over fist. And I had a problem though. Something was always breaking on my rental property. So I wasn't really able to like quit my job, but I was like, there's gotta be a better, easier way. I just needed to make like $4,500, just call it $5,000 a month, so I can leave the Army. That was the goal. And I kept searching for podcast after podcast, listening to the 4-Hour Work Week every time I was driving to and from base. And I heard a guy talking on a podcast just like this. He was like doubling his money overnight, buying and selling land. I'm like, this, no one's talking about this. If half of what he says is true, this is what I'm going to do to get out of the military.
Yeah.
So I took action immediately, because I had always heard you can't make money with vacant land. There's nothing to rent out. There's nothing to fix and flip. But yeah, I started mailing the county held tax lien list in El Paso County. And then I would send it to my virtual assistant. She would scrub the list, put the schedule numbers in the El Paso Specialist website, the assessor's website, and then give me the mailing address and the people's name. Most of the time, there's no address on the land. And I would send them a postcard. And the postcard was simple. It was like, hey, my name's Brent. I'd like to buy your land in El Paso County, Colorado. If you're interested in an all cash fair price offer, call me or text me. God bless.
And hold on. And these are people that you already know have defaulted on their taxes. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And it was a small list. Don't get me wrong. It was like 618 letters that were sent. And I did a couple deals. That was what gave me my start. And I made a ton of mistakes. Don't get me wrong. But these people were willing to sell me land at cheap prices, because most of the time it wasn't buildable, or it was landlocked, or not accessible. And everyone listens probably, well, how the heck do you make money? Well, I was selling it most of the time on seller financing, and people want to own. They want a piece of America, something to go. Like my dad does this. He's like 65 years old. He sold a piece of land, the pastor of his church, just to have a place to go and read his Bible and meditate. That was it. Like, and
Yeah.
this land's not even buildable.
Yeah.
Not even buildable because it was too far away from the whatever. I don't even know why it wasn't buildable, but that's it. I'm going to pause for a second because I just dumped a lot of
No,
info there.
I mean, I shared with you before we started recording this podcast on the only land deal that I've ever done. You know, I picked up at a tax auction, found out it was pretty much unbuildable unless you wanted to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I thought, man, I made a big mistake. I spent $10,000 for this piece of crap piece of land. And then I uncovered what you just said. Like, people just want to own a part of America. There's a lot of people, they might be renting the house that they live in, but to have a piece of land that they can say is theirs means the world to them, and they're willing to pay for it. So I found people like that, and I did exactly what you said, is I seller finance it, and it was probably one of the most successful real estate transactions I've ever done. Even to this day, I get a check every single month in the mail from this guy that bought it. I don't know what he's doing with the land. I don't know if he just like parks his car and looks out the window, or if he puts up a tent there. Who knows? But it's his, and he was willing to pay, basically almost 5 times what I paid for it. And it's seller finance, so I'm making money every month off the interest payment. So I wish I would have went a little deeper in there, but I didn't because life got in the way. But you're kind of making me think, man, I should probably revisit that. So let's talk more about the seller financing aspect of it, because I think that's what you're doing more than anything.
Yeah,
Right?
that's what I
I mean,
try
as
for
far
anyways.
as to get that passive income coming in.
Yeah. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes they pay all cash. Sometimes they pay it off quickly. But yeah, I want to copy the banks. There's a reason why the banks are the biggest, prettiest buildings in every city and every state, is because they charge interest. So they borrow from the Federal Reserve. Sometimes they get the money at 0% and then loan it out to us, poor jokers, for whatever, 8%. But I borrow money from others at less. Let's just call it 8 or 9% interest. And guys, if you got some money sitting on the sidelines and you want to secure it with real estate, reach out. I've got more land deals coming across my table than what I can ever do by myself. So reach out. But for instance, my mother-in-law, she lent me money at $40,000 at 9% interest. We bought a piece of land with it. This is in Florissant, Colorado. We sold the land for $95,000, and the guy gave us a $5,000 down payment. So I didn't send that to my mother-in-law. I kept that. My mother-in-law will be paid off in 5 years. So it's a 60-month amortization schedule, which is a 5-year amortization schedule. So I'm paying her $800 a month. Then I charge my buyer 12% interest on $90,000. So he's paying me like $972 a month, give or take some change. Don't hold me directly to it. I got to look at the note. But he's going to be paid off in like 13 and a half years, call it 14 years. So my mother-in-law's paid off in 5. I still have almost 9 years of payments I'm going to keep I'm going to make over $100 and something thousand on that one deal. I have none of my own money into.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So is that basically on the majority of them that you're doing, is that you're leveraging other people's money to
Yeah.
initially pick it up?
So sometimes the seller will finance me the land. I don't always need mother-in-law. Sometimes I'll just use my own cash. Sometimes I don't have the money. I run out of money too. Warren Buffett has a budget. I definitely have a budget.
Yeah.
So I'll sometimes just assign my contract where I'll get it under contract. Like I did 44 acres next to Schriever Air Force Base from a bank on that first mailer. Guys, if anybody's listening to this wants a copy of my postcard, just go to thelandsharks.com/postcard and you can get a copy of my postcard and start using it today. Take action. Like this is a podcast. You can get gold on here. I'm sure every episode Keith does is pure gold, but write this stuff down and take the action steps. This is all like, doesn't matter if it goes out in one ear and you forget it tomorrow, because you will. So time block this stuff right now while you're listening to it. If you're driving down the road, hey Siri, make an appointment for tomorrow at 9 p.m. to reach out to landowners and mail the postcard. Little things like that. That's how I get stuff done. I time block it, or I stop and do it right there. But Schriever Air Force Base got it under contract with the banker. They were in the process of losing it basically because no one paid the taxes. It was a crazy situation. So I made a stupid offer for like 20 grand. I think the land was worth a little over $100K back then. 44 acres next to Schriever Air Force Base. I don't even want to know what it's worth now. It's like Bitcoin, like where I messed up and I should have taken Bitcoin from one of my tenants in 2013.
Yeah.
For a year and a half. So I didn't have 20 grand, but I made the offer for 20 and they said 25. And if you can't pay that, then don't ever call us again. This was on a Friday afternoon. I signed it. I didn't sleep that night because I was freaking out because I didn't have money like that. I was just getting started. This is 2016. I'm a poor second lieutenant with a brand new baby at home. So I was like, heck, I'm going to go out on Saturday. I'm going to put signs up everywhere. Land for sale, must sell, phone number. I put out 30 of those signs and I had 2 phone calls. One was cussing me out for putting the sign on their land. I was like, just throw it away. 2, guy from Texas just sold his ranch out there in Texas. Said, where are you at? I'm looking for land right now. Me and my wife have been driving around for 2 weeks. It was honestly a blessing from God. So we literally shook hands on the side of the road. I sold it to him for $38,000. So do the math, 25 to 38 was at 14 grand assignment fee. I just sold my contract. And after that, I was getting higher offers, which hurt me. I was like, oh, I even called the Texan and I said, hey, I know we had a deal. I know we agreed on it. What if I pay you $7,000 just to walk away from this deal? And he goes, absolutely not. I want the land. Cause I was getting offers like 30 grand over, 15 grand over. I was going to split it with him.
Yeah.
And so I sold him the land. But little things like that, I didn't know what the land was worth back then. Had no clue. Now it's way easier to figure it out because, I look on Redfin. I see what similar sized parcels are selling for in the area, or I call a land sales specialist real estate agent, one that sold land in the area. Colorado's easy, but there's states like Texas and Wisconsin, non-disclosure states.
Yeah.
Call a good realtor that's selling the land out there. They're going to know what it's going for by the square foot and by the acre. So it's just, you don't need to know all the answers. You just got to be resourceful enough. There's never been anything in real estate that I couldn't figure out by calling five people, 5 experts. Yeah. Now I don't call just anybody.
So real quick, back on the land, you are going after land that's not on the market, right? They're reaching out to you because you're sending the postcards.
Yeah, I send out what I call LOLs, land offer letters, every single day, and it is an offer amount.
This is a hard piece of mail that you send out.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. And I call it an LOL because every time I get one back, I laugh out loud because it's a smoking hot deal. Land offer letter. And guys, anybody listening to this, I'll give you this for free. Go to thelandsharks.com/LOL as in land offer letter, or laugh out loud, because if you start sending these out to landowners, and you're not going to always be right on the price. I'm never dead on. And sometimes there's a renegotiation. Sometimes I pay more because I realize I really made a mistake, but they sign them and send them back. Most people are not going to accept my offer, though. Most people won't. But there's a right person at the right time that needs to hear my message, and they sell me their land. Like I've done so many of these that where I've done a handful now at this point, where I haven't even talked to the seller. It's all been over email.
Wow. And so are you still going after like you going through the tax assessor to get these?
No, that's too
No.
much work. I mean, you should still get deals. You can still get deals that way, but
Yeah.
that's a lot of work. There's way easier ways now. So I'll go to Redfin. Well, no, let me back up. I'll figure out where demand is happening. I'll see where the land's selling
Yeah.
or the states that we call the inbound states. And I'll go like, what are the inbound states? Idaho, South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, Florida. Well, actually, Texas is supposedly an outbound state, but I don't believe it. I'm still doing pretty well out there. Then I'll find little pockets, little hot pockets where land's selling out there. And I don't care if it's 4 or 5 parcels I've sold in the last 12 months. That's enough for me. I can get comps on that. Once I figure that out, I'll price it out. I'll figure out what the land's worth by the acre, what it's selling for, or by the square foot if it's in buildable infill lots. And then I'll send out land offer letters. I'm getting my list through a website called PropStream. If anybody wants
Okay.
to get, you know what
PropStream's
PropStream?
actually an advertiser on this show.
Heck
So
yeah, there
if
you
you
go.
want to sign up with PropStream, go check it out. The link should be with this podcast to get a special deal from PropStream.
Heck yeah. Yeah, go take action on that. Download my land offer letter or even make it easier on yourself. Get the postcard and go to the link below on PropStream. Use that free trial with that link and then mail those bad boys and get that phone ringing. Like that's it. You're just taking the next step. You don't need to know, like there's a reason why our headlights are only 300 feet in front of us. We don't need to see 900 feet. We only need to see the first 300. And then tomorrow's answers will come tomorrow.
That's awesome. Let's say you get a landowner that's interested in selling the parcel to you. And you said in some cases that they'd even be willing to sell or finance it to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Most of the time they have no clue what that even is. You just got to educate them on it.
well, let's educate the listeners right now that may be like, seller financing for land, how does that work? Maybe you can talk about that because you did talk about in the beginning that one of the first pieces that you bought, you borrowed the money from your mom, you set up payments with her, and then you sold it to somebody for a higher price and a higher interest. And so basically now you're bringing in more money than you're paying your mom, and that's where the cash flow is for you.
That's
So
it.
is there something special? Do I need a license for this? Do I need, maybe you can educate our listeners on that. How do you go about this?
I don't need a lender license because I'm buying it in my LLC and I'm selling it out of my LLC and I'm collecting the payments into my LLCs or my LLC. IRS does like for you to charge interest. For a while there, I was doing 0% loans because I was like, who am I to charge someone interest when I'm literally buying it for $500 and selling it for 5,000? Or some
Yeah.
of these I was buying for a couple $100 and selling it for. I bought Fountain, Colorado, one of the last lots left in a mobile home area where they were putting double wide mobile homes. It wasn't a mobile home park. I bought it for like $250 and I sold it for $9,000 with land title. Was my land title guarantee company was my title insurance company, and I had the buyer ready to go. He was going to put another double wide on it, and come to find out, it wasn't in my name yet. They were going to record it for me and then basically simultaneously sell it or double close it, whatever you call it. But I'd already gotten the quit claim deed from the from the seller. I didn't do any title searches. Dumb on my part.
Yeah.
I don't recommend. I now only buy through title insurance companies. A
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
these, I would walk in these people's houses or meet them at the bank, and I would hand them cash or certified checks, and I get a quit claim deed. Stupid. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't do
Like
that.
I made a lot of mistakes, and I was very honestly, like God bless my path. That's for sure. That He definitely protected me and shielded me. I bought I bought holes in the ground. I bought treasures deeds, which that's a whole nother podcast to explain all that. But I dug myself out of those holes by giving people seller financing. I never lost money on a single piece of land yet, thank God. I've made a lot of mistakes though. But the seller financing, it got me out of those holes. And basically, like that, going back to that Fountain, Colorado lot, Turns out there's $157,000 IRS tax lien on it. And I was like, good
Oh,
Lord,
wow.
thank God I didn't, because I was in my beginning stages. If I would have had $157,000 lien on me, I
Yeah.
would have probably lost everything at that point because
Ye-
I was very beginning. Um, so I was like, don't record it. So I put it on my, I still got the filing cabinet in front of me. I put it in the filing cabinet, or maybe it was on top of it. This poor lady kept calling me every month and emailing me. I ignored her because I was scared. I didn't know what to do. She's like, get this thing out of my name, because her husband died. He was the developer of that mobile home
Okay.
community. And I just ignored her, and I hired a coach. And he goes, Brent, try and do it again. Sometimes these IRS liens fall off. So I went to Heritage Title. And so here, let me back up. I was like, who is the best investor-friendly title agent in Colorado Springs? So I called the top 3 home buyers. I did Sell My House Fast, Colorado Springs, and I found the top 3 home buyers. One was like Adam Ray, Colin McCormick. These are old real estate
Yeah.
investors in this
Yeah.
area. So I called all of them, and I was like, hey, I'm doing land, and who is your best investor-friendly title agent that could like work through any title issue? And 2 of them said Tammy Thomas. Now she lives in Montana, unfortunately. So I called Tammy. I said, can you please help me with this? I want to sell this property. Can you get it in my name? I didn't tell her about the lien. So she get it all figured out. Turned out there's like $3,000 owed to Fountain, Colorado. So we got it all paid, all taken care of. But simultaneously, I'm marketing for a buyer on Craigslist and Facebook and putting signs out. I sold this thing for 35 grand. And it was a few years of interest. They just finally paid me off like 6 years later, $557 a month. I can't even tell you how much money I made in interest, but I bought this thing for like, I was into it for like 3,500 bucks. So that's kind of the seller financing stuff. Sometimes it was my own cash. Sometimes it's the seller financing. The seller would seller finance me. Sometimes I got to call lenders. I get lenders all the time. There's one secret to getting lenders. I've used a lot of hard money lenders, but the biggest secret is I share with everyone what I'm doing. I tell them how I do it step by step by step, and I secure their money with real estate. I never touch their money. I get a lender's title insurance policy for them, and I pay them on time. That's why my lenders keep lending. They make money with me, and I'm making money with it. And God forbid the market crashes, I'm buying this stuff at such deep discounts where I can at least pay my lender back.
Yeah. What do you do if the seller, or what if you do if the buyer that seller financing doesn't pay you though? Like,
Oh, it happens all the time. I keep paying my lender and I foreclose on it, or I do a cancellation of contract for deed. So I sell some via mortgage and deed of trust, or promissory note and deed of trust, where I am just the bank, where I transfer the land out of my name, and some where I don't get a high enough down payment. Anything under 5 grand, I just do a land contract or a contract for deed. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes people die. Sometimes people go to jail. Sometimes people no longer want the land.
okay. And how long does it take though, where you can legally resell it if someone defaults like that?
My contract for deeds says if they're 60 days behind, I can take it back. And if they wanted to go to court and fight me over it, it would take longer probably. But most of the time, like I've modified people's loans. Like, I'm going to work with you. I can get another piece of land tomorrow. I've got land in inventory. I don't need to take your land from you. So 60 days. So I'll remarket it while we're working it out. I've never had to foreclose on anybody where I've actually transferred the deed, because I usually collect a pretty darn good down payment.
Got it.
One guy, I'm helping him sell his land. Right, I've helped a couple people sell it, so they don't lose the money that they got
Yeah.
into it. But sometimes people are just like, yeah, just take it back. And I've even paid people to take land back from them. And it's funny. One of the guys I paid, he bought another parcel from me.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about where people that are interested in this can find you. You did mention is it landsharks.com?
Yeah, the land
The
sharks.com.
thelandsharks.com, and you're offering coaching programs too?
Yeah, so I'll coach a few people a month. I can't take on a ton of people, but yeah, I pretty much offer my entire land business. We have support calls, which I have one in about 8 minutes that we jump on. I have an assistant coach; he's a rock star. But yeah, I love working with veterans active duty military, other real estate investors. It's a great time. I fund a lot of land deals. I lend on land deals myself. So
Nice, nice. Well, I definitely encourage people to go check them out. Definitely a unique strategy, one that you don't have to worry about toilets and roofs and all the other late rent payments and everything that you deal with in the landlording world. So that's awesome. Um, Before I let you go, I always like to ask this, just a few questions. First off, what's your favorite real estate book you've ever read?
oh, The Wealthy Gardener.
The Wealthy Gardener. Who's that by? I haven't read that one.
Oh man, I don't know. I can't think of his name. It's
Okay,
someone
well,
you've never heard of.
Google it. Google it.
The
The
Wealthy
Wealthy
Gardener.
Gardener.
It's a great
Okay,
book to
and
listen to on Audible too, by the way. It's just such a beautiful story.
what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I don't know. So much. There's been so many people that have helped me along the way. Um, uh, I don't know. My wife gives me good advice all the time. It's whether I'm willing to accept it or not. She tells me when I'm being a jerk and when my ego gets in the way. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, that's important. You got to have that. That's what makes a good relationship is when your spouse partner can tell you, "Hey, you're going a little too far."
Yeah, I'm not saying I like it or I'm always nice when she gives it to me,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Okay, what about? Do you have a favorite quote?
you know, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. I'll leave that
Okay,
one right there.
I
John
think that's a
3:16.
great one. That's a great one. Doesn't matter if you're in real estate, whatever you're in, it's applicable to everything.
And it's all about love.
It's all
It's
about
love.
love. And you did this in the very beginning. You said you did this to spend more time with your family, right? This is what got you into real estate, and I'm sure it could be hard because I've done it too. I did the same thing. I said I can quit my 9 to 5. I'm gonna spend more time with family. That was my why. And then all of a sudden, I started working more in real estate than I did in my 9 to 5, and I had to kind of like recalibrate. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's important to do that. It's important to have that in front of you. But hey, Brent, it was great hearing about your success in the land business and your story. I know that our listeners will get a lot of value out of this. So I appreciate you for being here. So everyone, God bless, and I'll see you on the next episode.